Good afternoon and welcome to week 14. We are almost in the home stretch as we are talking about adolescence. And this week we're looking specifically at adolescence in terms of cognition. I just wanted to remind you, as we consider adolescents, and teenagers, uh, let's not forget that like 100 years ago, or maybe a little bit more than that, there were no such thing as adolescence. That we kind of went from childhood to adulthood, and so when we talk about these issues like teenagers not being able to think straight and not being mature and stuff like that, remember that historically there was no such thing, so that we pass from childhood into adulthood. Biologically, as we saw last week, there really isn't a reason why adolescents can't think like adults and take a responsibility. Probably a lot of this kind of comes down to that issue of how do we treat adolescents? Do we expect them to be adult-like? So anyway, I'll move ahead. In review of last week's little discussion, you were presented somewhat of scientific evidence, I don't know, of answering the question of why girls seem to be hitting puberty earlier and earlier. And there were some different scientific theories, I guess you could call them, presented. I don't know how we really call them theories, because was that research? And I think a lot of you did point that out. Monique, you said that, even if we look at data from now, how do you compare that with the fact that people didn't reach puberty until like 15 or 1600 years ago? Well, we don't have a lot of data on what was going on environmentally back then, even though we have data now. Melissa, you said that we just need more scientific facts. There isn't really a lot of evidence anyway, one way or the other. These are just correlations. And remember, we know that correlation does not mean causation. Correlation just means that these variables sort of appear together, change together, that kind of thing. And that's what you said, Marta. Very, very nice point you make about there's not really evidence of what is causing earlier and earlier onset of puberty. We have to consider that the person presenting, I think they were scientists. I think that Emma, you pointed out that, well, they're scientists, so doesn't that make it credible? And I'm not going to correct you, because certainly before we publish scientific research, there is some kind of scientific attempt to understand the question, to process a hypothesis and to test it. But because we're really just left with evidence that is correlative about earlier onset of puberty, we really don't know if any one of these things absolutely causes it. It just makes sense that way. So anyway, as we will look at the teenage thinking this week, then I encourage you to think back of your own adolescence and your own experiences, and try to illustrate as you go through. And I hope you have a great week. It's good to know you, and I'm looking forward to 2 more weeks with you.